You won't believe how the descendants of the world's richest kings are living today. I'm talking about people whose ancestors commanded unimaginable fortunes, empires that spanned continents, and treasures that could fund nations. But now, some of them are broke, living ordinary lives, or even struggling to make ends meet. How did it happen? How do you go from a palace to a small apartment? Let's uncover the jaw-dropping stories of royal fortunes lost to time, extravagance, and sometimes just plain bad luck. First up, let's travel to India, to the last king of the Sikh Empire, Maharaja Duleep Singh. His father, Maharaja Ranjit Singh, was known as the Lion of Punjab and possessed a fortune so vast it was legendary, including the world-famous Koh-i-Noor diamond. When Duleep Singh was just a boy, the British Empire annexed his kingdom. He was exiled to England, where he was raised as a British aristocrat. He lived a life of luxury, but it was a gilded cage. The British government controlled his allowance, which, while generous, was a mere fraction of his rightful inheritance. He spent lavishly on estates, lavish parties, and a high society lifestyle he felt was his birthright. But the money wasn't endless. He constantly petitioned Queen Victoria for the return of his sovereignty and his wealth, including the Koh-i-Noor, but was always denied. He fell into immense debt, trying to maintain the appearance of royalty without the income. His attempts to reclaim his kingdom in India failed, and he died nearly penniless in a Paris hotel room. His children faced their own struggles. His son, Prince Victor Duleep Singh, also accumulated massive gambling debts and had to declare bankruptcy. The once mighty royal line, owners of one of the world's most famous diamonds, faded into financial obscurity. Their story is a classic tale of how political upheaval and personal choices can decimate even the greatest of fortunes. It shows that without power, wealth can be surprisingly fragile. Now, let's head to Hawaii. Before it became the 50th U.S. state, Hawaii was a sovereign kingdom with a rich history and a royal family. Queen Liliuokalani was its last reigning monarch. Her family wasn't just wealthy in terms of money. Their wealth was tied to the land, the culture, and the sovereignty of the Hawaiian Islands. But in 1893, a coup led by American and European businessmen, with the support of the U.S. military, overthrew the monarchy. The queen was imprisoned in her own palace. The vast crown lands, which were meant to support the Hawaiian monarchy and its people, were seized and became public lands of the United States. The royal family lost everything: their political power, their status, and their primary source of income. Their descendants today are not living in palaces. Many are ordinary citizens. Some are activists fighting for Hawaiian sovereignty and rights, but they don't possess the immense wealth of their ancestors. Abigail Kananakoa, often considered the last Hawaiian princess, was a notable exception. She inherited a significant fortune not from the monarchy, but through her great-grandfather, an Irish businessman who became one of Hawaii's largest landowners. She used her wealth for philanthropic efforts to preserve Hawaiian culture. However, her story is the exception, not the rule. For most descendants of the Hawaiian royal family, the ancestral wealth is a memory, a part of a history that was forcibly taken away. Next, let's journey to the Ottoman Empire, which at its height spanned 3 continents and controlled immense wealth. The sultans lived in unimaginable luxury in palaces like Topkapi in Istanbul. When the empire collapsed after World War I and the modern Republic of Turkey was established in 1924, the entire imperial family, numbering over 150 people, was sent into exile. They were given a one-way passport and a small amount of cash, and were stripped of their Turkish citizenship and all their properties. Imagine being born a prince or princess, and then overnight you're a refugee with nothing. The descendants of Sultan Abdul Hamid II, one of the last powerful sultans, were scattered across the globe, from France to Lebanon to America. Many struggled immensely. Some took on menial jobs to survive. Ertugrul Osman, who would have been the sultan had the monarchy continued, lived for decades in a modest apartment in New York City. He spoke multiple languages and was a cultured gentleman, but he worked in the mining industry and lived a quiet, middle-class life. He only regained his Turkish citizenship in the final years of his life. While some descendants have managed to live comfortably, none have come close to reclaiming the astronomical wealth of their ancestors. The state-sized fortune of the Ottomans was absorbed by the new republic, leaving the royal heirs with only their titles and their memories. Let's turn our attention to China and its last emperor, Puyi, of the Qing dynasty. The Forbidden City in Beijing, a sprawling complex of nearly 1,000 buildings, was his home. The imperial treasury was filled with priceless artifacts, silks, and jewels accumulated over centuries. But his reign was short-lived. The 1911 revolution ended more than 2,000 years of imperial rule in China. Puyi was allowed to live in the Forbidden City for a while, a virtual prisoner in his own home, but was eventually expelled. His life after that was a roller coaster of political maneuvering. He became a puppet ruler for the Japanese in Manchukuo, but after World War II, he was captured by the Soviets and later handed over to the Chinese communists. He underwent re-education and eventually became a regular citizen of the People's Republic of China, working first as a gardener and then as an editor. The immense wealth of the Qing dynasty, it became the property of the state. The priceless treasures now fill museums. Puyi's extended family members, the various princes and nobles, had to adapt to a new socialist reality. Many changed their Manchu names to blend in. Their ancestral lands were gone, their titles meaningless, and their wealth confiscated. Today, his relatives are scattered throughout China and the world, living as teachers, artists, and office workers. One of his nephews even became a respected schoolteacher. The story of Puyi's lineage is perhaps the most dramatic example of a complete fall from the pinnacle of power and wealth to the life of an ordinary commoner. Let's consider another fascinating case from Europe, the royal family of Yugoslavia. The Kingdom of Yugoslavia was formed after World War I with the Karađorđević dynasty at its head. King Peter II was the last king. He was forced to flee in 1941 when the Axis powers invaded Yugoslavia during World War II. After the war, the communist regime led by Tito abolished the monarchy and confiscated all royal property, including palaces and vast estates. King Peter II lived the rest of his life in exile, moving between Britain, France, and the United States. He struggled with depression and financial difficulties, eventually passing away in America. His son, Crown Prince Alexander, was born in a hotel suite in London that was temporarily declared Yugoslav territory, so he could be born on home soil. He grew up in exile and worked in the insurance business in London and Chicago. He lived a relatively normal, upper-middle-class life, a far cry from the royal existence his father once knew. After the fall of communism, Alexander was able to return to Serbia in 2001. He now lives in the royal palace in Belgrade, but as a citizen, not a monarch. The palace is still state property, and he and his family live there by the grace of the government. They run a foundation and engage in charity work, but their personal wealth is a shadow of what it once was. Their story highlights how political ideology can completely erase a family's fortune and status in just one generation. So what's the common thread here? In almost every case, it wasn't bad investments or a spending spree that did them in. It was revolution, war, and the radical redrawing of the world map. When a kingdom falls, the king's bank account is often the first thing to go. Political change is the ultimate wealth destroyer. The fortunes of these dynasties were tied to the land and the taxes of their people. Once the system that propped them up collapsed, their wealth evaporated. It wasn't just money they lost. It was their entire world. These stories are a powerful reminder that wealth, even on a royal scale, is not permanent. It can be taken away in an instant. The descendants of the richest kings are not living fairy tale lives. They are mechanics, teachers, activists, and retirees. They carry a legendary name, but not the legendary bank account that went with it. Their history is a fascinating look at the true nature of wealth, power, and legacy. And it leaves us with a fascinating question. Which modern billionaire dynasties could face a similar fate in the centuries to come? Think about it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible stories from history.